Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tom Woods School of Life Weekly Update. I'm your Community Director, Kevin Dolan, joined here by David Moore, Barbara Williams, and Jeremy Evans, your facilitators. And today we're talking about asking people for money. There's a lot of folks in the group who have a lot of talent, a lot of gifts, a lot of weird obsessions that nobody else shares that could be turned into money if they were, and because you're often like giving it away for free a lot. And there's an awkward point of transition that we've identified where a lot of people say, like, I do a lot of this for other people, but to start asking them for money is super awkward and I don't feel good about it. So we're going to just go around the room real quick and just get preliminary thoughts on that. Is that a problem for you? Has it been in the past? Did you solve it? How did you solve it? And let's start with David.
Yeah, I think this comes up a lot, especially in the school of life. If you think about a school, people come to environments like this to practice or to use it as a laboratory. I want to try some things that I suspect I might be good at, and I want to see how I do. Maybe I've got a consultative nature, and I just haven't completely honed in on what it is that I do in a consultative way. But you're starting to hone in on it, and you're starting to see what it is that is actually of real value, and you're getting further along in your exploration. And now you're going, oh, wait a minute, I've got to start asking people and sort of having these moments of differentiation where you're no longer the guy that you can call for free, but you're the guy that has to send an invoice. And how do you do that without creating conflict? Well, the answer is you really don't do that without creating a little bit of conflict. You have to have, one, the conflict in yourself, two, the conflict from those that have been getting this, this whatever it is from you for free for a while. They're now understanding that you're charging. There's going to be that temptation. I think a lot of people see oftentimes to go, well, I'll provide a discount. Don't worry, guys. I'll do some of it. For those of you who've known me for a while, I'll give you guys a really huge discount. Nope, knock it off. Like, start charging. It's time to, you've made the discovery. And if you need to have some new people that you bring into that world, I think that's one way to start charging is, maybe sometimes your legacy people have grown accustomed to you being the perennial volunteer, but it's time maybe for you to start to hang your shingle. And I think we're probably going to see a lot of that for those that have made their way into the exploration phase further down the line.
In my experience, you get busy enough that you recognize that you have to charge. And if you start with sort of offering it to friends, and you kind of branch out to strangers and you kind of fill your dance card with strangers, then you're like, well, I have this, do I have time for a conversation? Well, I have time for a paid slot, and that's often how it goes. And you've actually mentioned, David, that there are times when you prefer, as a customer, you prefer to have a paid conversation.
Yes, because I like being, oftentimes I like to be your first paid client, right? Because it's like, first of all, I get to live up to the example that I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you, hey, take this on. So let me go first for you. But I also like the self-interested nature of being a paid client. When I'm a paid client, I get to go where I need to go. I get to ask what I need to ask. And a lot of times it's a great service to charge someone for what you do, because it allows them to truly get all the value out of that experience that they want. When you do it in a volunteer way, people sometimes hold back and not get the entire value of what they're needing. And so one of the greatest gifts you can do when you're ready is to start charging.
Yeah, they'll be more invested that way, and they just get more out of it because they mean to. Yeah, I love that.
I've had people, I've actually had people offer to pay for other people's membership in my group, and I usually say no. Obviously, from a revenue side, it doesn't make any difference where the check comes from, but in terms of that person's investment and the value they're going to get out of it, and their sense of it makes such a difference when you actually feel the money coming out, to how you take, and especially something like this that's about personal development. I think you kind of need that bite a little bit. It makes a big difference. Barbara, so what's been your experience with this? Is this something you're comfortable with?
No, I definitely have issues. Because like if you care about someone and you want to see them succeed and it's fun for you anyway, that's like another thing. We're doing stuff we love. So it's like, well, how am I making money off this? Like that part that is something that I have to fight with a little bit. But me and my business partner actually both kind of struggle. And this kind of calls back to our imposter syndrome episode a little bit as well, because I think there's something there causing that issue. But my business partner, just sent me this tweet like yesterday, and it's applicable, so I'll read it. Whatever you think you can't do, just know that there is someone who is confidently doing it wrong right now. They have no plans at doing it better either, and people are paying them to do it. So please believe in your own excellence as much as they believe in their mediocrity. And I mean, that hit both of us. We were like, yeah, we care a lot. We should probably be charging for how much we care about doing this right. So yeah, that's been my experience. So I'm currently traveling through that struggle myself, for sure.
Over the weekend, me and some of my church friends were talking about the phenomenon of the church podcast, and we've all resisted doing it because they're so lame and they're really bad. And we sort of settled on like, well, if it's cringe to do church podcasts, then only the cringe will do church podcasts. So we've sort of decided that we need to jump into the scene. I think you can absolutely be motivated by what you see out there, because I mean, I do this with novels. You ever read a novel and you go, this is so terrible, but it made so much money. And like people, and it's sort of like people deserve to have you out there. They deserve to have somebody who actually cares doing it, because they're already paying people who don't.
Yep.
100%. Jeremy, what's it like for you? You've been in the game for a while.
Jane Fonda, 100%. No, I'm teasing. And I know if I met this guy that he would forgive me. I recently discovered Ken Honda, very similar to Jane Fonda. I don't really know who Jane Fonda is. Yeah, exactly. He's kind of the off-brand. He's the cheaper version. I think most people have apprehensions about money. Most people have concerns about the value that they're offering, and most people are concerned when it comes time to ask for money, to pay money. People have money problems, and I'm amongst them. I'm sitting on like $3,000 of checks right now that are just right beside my desk that I need to cash, and I don't care. And I've had them there for 2 months. Right? I have no idea why. I find it kind of tedious. I know I can like batch it and do it all. But there's a deeper psychological root, right? And I think that underlies a lot of the problems that people have asking for money. One thing that has helped me is Austrian economics. I know that it is good and righteous and pure to exchange money for services. And in fact, in a sense, and Rand will also tell you this, in a sense, it is more pure and honest than charity, where you have a secret ulterior motive, which is making yourself feel good, right? We know that people value things a lot more, to Kevin's point, whenever they pay for it, and David's point as well. And at least I have my ideal, I would say, properly constructed. My ideal is I should ask for money and give money in exchange for all services. For some reason, I'm very eager to give money. So like David, if somebody says, oh, I do this thing, I say, great. So I'm going to pay you $50. We're going to do the thing. Right. And I do that all the time. For some reason, on the other end there, I give a lot of things away and I don't ask for much in return. And again, I think that this ultimately stems from a deeper psychological root, which is inaccessible to me. I wish I had a clearer answer, but it is worthy of exploration. In the context of technical work, I feel very comfortable asking for money. The context of consulting, I have felt comfortable and I have not, depending on what I perceive as the knowledge gap. And then you're also evaluating what is the impact that $300 an hour or whatever is going to have to this person on the other side. Is this at all appropriate? And then if they can't do $300 an hour, maybe it's just free. Maybe this is charity now, right? I don't have clear answers there. It's not very well defined for me, but I do think this is perhaps one of the most perennial and important topics to explore.
I think it's okay to give some work away if you've priced it. Like to your point, is it $300 or is it free? Like, I mean it. Like, have you made a decision about what the value of what you're doing is? And it's your life. You can choose to give it away or your knowledge, your labor, but you should know how much it's worth. And I think that's a big part of it is the intimidation with saying, here's what I think my knowledge is worth. Here's what I think you should pay me. Even if you come around to like the charity case, like it's not so much like I'm scared to ask for money, because if you told that person this is usually $300, I'll do it for free, it's the same awkwardness, it's the same pain, because you're having to be explicit that you are working for free. You are working for free. It's been my experience that people who are the longer and deeper people have been kind of in the game of entrepreneurship, the more willing they are to pay for things, because you've watched, in most cases, you've watched the difference. You've seen the value of incentives. You've seen what it does when people have a reason to help you, and what you sort of, the power that you have to make sure that it's right when you pay for it. And so yeah, I think it's a change of mindset. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, it's like inviting somebody out onto the dance floor, right? Like, I'm going to pay you because come on out here. Like, come get out here where we're really doing it. And I think it's really wanting people to experience how much the commerce purifies the interaction. And if you are concerned that, hey, well, we're all equal in the eyes of God, right? Well, we're not all equal in the eyes of the marketplace. And you're having to kind of have this, maybe you have enough, maybe your spiritual or religious background is that we're all worthwhile. That's true. But you're not negating that by simply saying, but in this particular instance, what I'm doing is actually a financial value, and maybe a different financial value than you'd expect. And I have to deal with the conflict of stating that. I had a business coach one time who told me I was struggling to hire an assistant. And I was like, there's no task that I'm above. I don't want to be this guy who thinks he's above things. And my business coach said, do you think you would benefit this person? Imagine someone who has a flexible schedule, and he went through the job that I was basically trying to find of someone for. And he goes, would it benefit this person's life if you created this position? And I said, yeah, it really would. It's like, don't necessarily see it as a holier than thou. I'm better than. It's just that we're trying to price things and get things done and make things happen, and that we all have different priorities. We all have different interests and obsessions. And really adding the financial component once you're ready is extremely important.
That is comparative advantage, by the way, for libertarians in the audience, right? So I benefit to have people do a worse job than I would do in the same amount of time. Deal with the aftermath. I have a docket of aftermath to deal with right after this call, and to make more time in my week, effectively make more time in the time pool that is my organization, et cetera. And you're also generating opportunities for others. This is one of the big things that Ken Honda preaches. Peace be upon him. He's both still very alive and also very Japanese. So I don't think that's a relevant peace be upon him. All right. So Ken says, every time you pay a bill, you say arigato. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the electricity that keeps my family warm. I'm currently in a blizzard, right? When you find out that a bag of carrots is $150 at the grocery store, you say, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have carrots instead of this stupid paper or digital currency or whatever, right? And when you receive money, quite obviously, you say, thank you, right? It is so wonderful that somebody values my services enough. In the same reframing of debt, this is where it's even less obvious. it's so wonderful that somebody trusted me. They said, sure, you're going to college now. And when you're done, you're going to be so capable and so productive that you're going to be able to pay back this loan with these predatory terms and this and that and uncancelable. No. Somebody trusted me. Somebody trusted me to make more money, to be a bigger, better person than I am right now. And that's beautiful. These things are hard to internalize, I think, right? At the very least, Austrians have a starting point. They have an intellectual starting point that says comparative advantage, the market prices things, right? So if I put myself out at $300 an hour, and I work with, 5, 10, 100 people, there's going to come a point where people are either going to figure out if I'm generating more than $300 an hour for them, right? Because that's the entire premise. So the market itself decides these things. And part of this too is if you're doing work for free, and I think this is actually a very pragmatic, it's a little tangential, but we can get back to the main topic. If you were doing work for free, how much money is on the other end for the person that you're working with? I'm in marketing, so that's very easy. But how much value is on the other end? So Barbara is dealing with health concerns, right? If Barbara is literally the only person to ever tell you about her esoteric disease that apparently I have, my God.
Jeremy has hers, ladies and gentlemen.
We will go into detail into my symptoms.
I was going to say
later.
we're gonna get HIPAA in here.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Barbara. So Barbara obviously handles confidential patient information. I mean, but if Barbara can solve a problem that that you've had and nobody believes you and nobody else can solve, how much money would that be worth, right? People routinely and regularly pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to treat difficult and esoteric health problems, and your health is, in that sense, priceless. The market will sort these things out for you, and it's often it doesn't scale with your confidence. It doesn't scale with your perceptions or intuitions necessarily. It scales with the value on the other end, which only comes from empathy and theory of mind. And by the way, real contact with real people, which is missing in some cases. Anyway, I'm rolling.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, Barbara, you go ahead.
That's a Barbara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I've noticed as far as like an actionable step that one can take, something that I've done kind of on that level, is actually seek out someone to pay to do a thing that I want to get paid to do. So I pay for coaching, I pay for health, I pay for health coaching, all that stuff. So that I'm also experiencing the benefit. So it's kind of reinforcing. I mean, it feels very pyramid schemey, but I swear it's not. But it's reinforcing the benefits of that type of coaching and reminding me that what I give people kind of in that same vein is going to be, worth it to them in some capacity as well. Not only that, but it's also giving you an idea of the market value of that thing. I mean, call around, maybe not even, to the people you actually are hiring, but just call basically your competition. And I mean, I feel like I learned this from Jeremy. It was certainly reinforced by Jeremy because he's given this tip before. Just call people as if you're a customer and try to hire them for what you want to do and see what that feels like on that end. And I know that's helped me kind of transition through this process.
Yeah, it's great customer research for sure.
Right.
Kevin, you're up next. Go ahead.
Oh, I lost it. You say what you're going to say.
I just want to double down on what Barbara's saying. It's so important to, I've had people in the past say, I'll send you the free version. Nope. Got to pay for it. Got to pay for it. I live in the world of the paid. I live in the world of the paid book. I live in the world of I don't want your Netflix password. I don't want your BitTorrented thing. I like to pay the creator of the thing and make sure they get full value. And so just having that mentality, that sort of rigidity toward commercializing things that are of true value and living in that higher stratosphere will help you keep valuing things. And so we're getting a little woo-woo, but I think there is something it's important to pay, what is it? The guru, you must give at least a silk scarf to the guru. Like there has to be an energetic exchange of value. And it's so important that the student pays. That is just something to think about.
the people who want my thing for free are almost never people that I can help. They're almost never. Yeah, because it's so important to have that investment. And you also raise an interesting point about like Netflix and Disney Plus and all that stuff. Like I would never pay for those things because I despise those companies. and it's like, well, if you despise them, do you want them in your house? Like, do you like think about what you actually value? I think that's wise for sure. And like instead of passively consuming the sort of swill that you're stealing, not just because what you're paying is data. You're paying your data. That's why they allow, the group accounts. But take that money and buy something that you actually value. And in most cases, in like the kind of media projects that we're developing in Exit and in Tom Wood School, the state of that media is it's so new and it's so like gonzo at this point that if you pay somebody to make something for you, like you have so much creative input. You can say so much about what gets made. And yeah, in fact, I mean, not to change gears completely, but I would say that's like a really good use of the group here, is we've got so many people creating things. And if you invest in some of these creative people, find the one that seems talented and skilled, don't just throw your money around, but by investing in people, like you sort of get a vote on what is out there in the world. And that's a pretty exciting opportunity. And I mean, the state of sort of professional content creation is so dismal. Not to kick somebody when somebody was posting a picture of like an empty signing because they're a New York Times bestseller and they went to an empty book signing and they're really sad about it. And apparently that's like most New York Times bestseller book signings. And like I looked at the Pulitzer winners for the last couple of years, and it's like there are Pulitzer winners that have sold like 577 copies. And like I have personal friends who are just like goofballs on Twitter who are 10xing that, 100xing that. Like we're in a really interesting time where you can pay for really, really interesting things that can actually a frankly very unstable equilibrium. So it's an exciting time on the subject of just paying for stuff that you want to see.
Yeah.
No, that ties in perfectly. I love that.
I want to say what David's afraid to say, but he did already say it. And it does have to do with Jane Fonda.
Of course it does.
Of course.
And David has a long history with Jane, but we're not going to get into that right now. Money is more than just a vote of what you want to see. It is a kind of energy currency, if you will. Now it's getting a little circular here. I'm reusing currency, but it is the fuel that propels a business, right? And businesses in and of themselves have greater impact than individuals in almost every case. And when an individual transcends and becomes an influencer, well, now they're a business, right? Tom has businesses, and Tom Woods himself as a public speaker is a business, right? When people multiply their power and their influence in the world, it is because they are giving and receiving that money. And there's a healthy flow, right? I don't know if high fiber or low fiber is the right path here, but you definitely need to be digesting a lot of money on both ends. And that's it's easily neglected. It's easy to gather a lot of money and still be very stingy and cheap. It's easy to spend a lot of money and not gather any in. That's a really fun one. That one's closer to my heart. But when you realize that moving money around, both asking for money and giving money, is creating an organism and an ecosystem, you have a lot more power just with that single realization. And it's an act of love, right? Just like the debt example. if I'm willing to pay somebody for their time, I'm not just going to ask them to do this thing for me. You say that this is something that is worth money. This is a valuable service. I believe you. I trust you. I care for you. I'm not going to use the big L. I'm tempted to, but you love the people around you, and that is kind of the byproduct here. So this is why I said David didn't want to say it, because this is the new agey wealth kind of stuff, right? But it's a better framing. It's a better framing than the stingy mentality we grew up with. Please, David.
You saw it on Mad Men, right? Where Peggy goes, "You never say thank you," and Don Draper goes, "That's what the money's for." And the truth is, you need to do both. You need to say thank you, and you need to give the money, and they're both important. And yeah, it is new agey and woo woo, but I don't know. I think it's Christian too. I think we're covering the bases.
Yeah, and you. So back to the subject of how do you ask? How do you open that door? I think this group, as people who, you got a lot of Austrians, you got a lot of like explicitly Ayn Rand folks, like of all the audiences in which you should feel comfortable like being transactional without feeling like a jerk. Or maybe not caring if you're a jerk, like go ahead and be transactional. And like every time that I've asked anybody in the group, from Tom to the facilitators to like, I've sort of felt out like, how do we feel about shilling around here? How do we feel about pumping what you're doing? And almost without, it's been cool. Yeah. I want to know, because honestly, like a lot of people want to know what you're doing. They're excited to hear about stuff that's going on in the group. And so like when Tom brings somebody on and they get the Tom Woods bump to their business, we're all excited for them. And it's so yeah, I think it's an optimal, like an ideal. I couldn't construct in my mind a better group of people to practice that on. And in my experience, that's the people who we have the easiest time telling their stories. Like there's lots of people who've accomplished cool things in the group and they like their time here and they're glad they're part of it. The people whose stories are like the most digestible, easy to tell stories is, I had a thing and I started telling people about it in the group and now I'm making money. So if that's what you want, like, don't feel like that's an icky or ulterior. We're about that. And then come tell us about it. And then we'll tell everybody else about it. And
that's something, if anyone has listened this far into this episode who is not in the school, if you don't know, I mean, there is no other. I'm in a lot of online communities and I have been over, however many years they've been a thing. You literally are not allowed to sell your thing in any, I've never experienced another community where I could sell whatever it is that I'm selling, not that it's just like, there are rules. It's like one of the first rules on any community. Here you can. So take advantage. And just like you said, this is just the absolute perfect environment to do that, where no one's going to look at you weird or get turned off by it. They're going to be expecting it, actually. So yeah, it is the perfect spot for that.
Your business can complete its metamorphosis here, right? You can literally come here unsure and then be sure and then start charging. And you haven't changed your tune because you started to charge. You've just become the thing that you were wondering what it might be, and now you know. And we like that you stick around and charge us for things. It's great.
Yep.
And I think the reason that doesn't, like, we think through this. Why is it it's not acceptable anywhere else? I think it's because there is not the level of affinity in other groups. There's not the level of individual connection. And so you don't want it to become this, just like spam farm where the chat is just wall-to-wall advertisements. And I've seen communities like that, even the ones that forbid it. Like it's just sneaky. They do it and it just becomes that way anyway. But
I want to disagree. I want to disagree with Kevin. I'm
Go
doing
ahead.
it. I'm generating the controversy that we need.
Jump in.
This is why I keep shouting out about
this
Ken
content
Honda.
is electric.
Right, exactly. Yeah, more shouting and interrupting. That's I've watched Joe Rogan. That's what it's about. All right. I disagree. I think it's because there's a basis in Austrian economics. I think that ideologically there's a common commitment towards libertarianism, and you are not very libertarian if you're going to squelch somebody for promoting their product or service. Right. This is the free market at work, baby. This is beautiful. This is good. Even if you find it distasteful, you're not going to speak out. I think we have the reverse pressure. And that's why the tagline is Tom Wood School of Life, the internet safe space for capitalism. I butchered it right at the last moment. Ken is weeping somewhere in Japan, but it's the exact opposite orientation. And I think there's a broad anti-capitalism bias. Most people, and this may or may not be tied back to philosophies and faith, even though I think it must be to some extent. Most people view making money as some duplicitous act of evil, right? Most people go through their entire lives saying, well, everyone's got to do it, got to kill to live, as if making money was like slaughtering animals or something like that. It's preposterous, but this is the money wound that Ken is going to heal you for like $10. Super cheap. I have an affiliate link that we're going to post below here on the episode. But yeah, it really is that deep and that difficult of an issue. And one pragmatic note, and you guys can take or leave this, is a little bit tangent. Ask people what they think it's worth. If you are truly clueless as to what the value of what you're doing is worth, just take the easy road. Just ask what you think it's worth. It's better than not asking for money. What is this worth to you? Radiohead did it within Rainbows. Think about that. They probably made a lot of money. It was a killer album. All right, continue.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mean, I think we've covered some good ground here. You guys have other thoughts on this? How do we get people? I mean, we've told them, and then we've told them how we've told them, and now we're telling them again.
I think it's great. I think we
chill your stuff.
I think we finished on Ken Honda and Radiohead. Good
Well, this has been a really good conversation, and I actually don't disagree. I think the ideological orientation creates a lot of the same affinity. It creates the same expectation, because you understand that there are a lot of people who have that money wound of I don't know if I'm using that phrase correctly.
I don't either, dude.
This is the first time I'm hearing it, so
I like it.
Same here.
But who have that issue, icky and predatory. There are frankly also people who have that same attitude about money making being icky and predatory, and then they go out and be icky and predatory.
Right.
And I think having a group of people who understand that providing a service for pay is pro-social and a virtuous and decent and good thing to do, they do it pro-socially and virtuously and decently. And so, yeah. Anyway, enough said about that. But I think it's I think it's a great opportunity. Well, maybe not enough said.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to give it up. More shouting. David, here's this. Somebody passed this blunt to me on the. David is closest to Elon Musk we have, right? I mean, we gotta work with what we got. Honestly, I think this is a hugely important topic. I think that it's undervalued by most people. I think the people who do the best job are frankly either in the Christian wealth movement, right? And people love to not appreciate that the prosperity gospel. You guys know what I'm talking about. So we got prosperity gospel, we have new age weirdos, and that's it. These are the only people that tell you money is love and it's beautiful and it's a valuable thing, which is, by the way, intellectually what every Austrian arrives at. This is essentially the crystallization of that doctrine, is that money is how you progress society in the way that you want to, and how you evolve and grow and increase your power in proportion to how you help other people, right? That's crazy good that is like the ideal utopic future that we're already living in. You make more money when you help more people. And when you help more people more effectively, you make even more money. I think that deserves to be shouted from the rooftops. It's important to know that. I know that. I talk about that. I remind my staff about that occasionally. Maybe I don't remind myself enough because it's still hard to internalize. I'm going against 30 some years. Well, it has actually, I've known about Austrian economics longer than that, but there's a lot of programming deep down that tells you that business is yucky. Something about camels and needles, right? You're going to sew a camel into the gates of something.
I think it's not, I don't think it's just ideological. I think there's also an element. So I can tell you a story. I think I can tell the story because I've already told it on podcast. So if he got mad then, he'll get mad now. But a friend of mine was struggling with this sort of like, do I even want to be in business? Do I want to make money? Because he came from money. And people had a lot of money and were miserable. And he was sort of like, if this doesn't, it's a lot of work to be an entrepreneur. And like, if the reward at the end of that is just money and, and the sort of the neglect of other things that do create happiness, then maybe it's a bad thing to do. And basically what we talked about was we just reframed it in terms of time. And it was, well, like right now, how do you make money? Like, how do you eat? How do you live? And it's like odd jobs, and it's like at a really low level. And this is a guy who's obsessive. This is a guy who has a thing that he loves to think about and loves to talk about. And if he had his druthers, that would be his whole life, would be this obsession. And I said, could you help people more effectively and serve them better if you didn't have to go like dig ditches to eat? and it was like, well, yeah, because I would actually dedicate myself to the thing that I care about and that I believe in. And not to say there's not value in variety, and I am grateful for the time that I spent digging ditches, but you should not stay there. You should do what you are actually good at, what you are actually like built to do. And reframing it that way, like, okay, so you don't want to make $1 billion. Good news, you probably won't. But what you can do is cover your expenses so that you can do what you're actually excited about. And I think once your day is full that way, it's a lot easier to say, well, this is what it costs to be me. This is if you want me around, this is the cost of having that guy around. Pretty simple. All right. Final thoughts.
Go hawk your shit.
Yeah.
Whoa. Absolutely. Barbara said the S word.
Oh, come on. Are we not allowed?
She took the Joe Rogan thing too seriously.
This isn't the Tom Woods show, I can say.
She's on Hype Beast supplements, Alpha Brain, Centauri, or whatever.
Gorilla Mind.
We're going to put together a compilation of those moments.
There we go. Beautiful.
All right, guys. This is a lot of fun. Have a great week. See you next time.